Welcome to Issues and Answers with Diane Kinderwater. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to New Mexicans by State Employees Credit Union, who have been proudly serving the families of New Mexico locally and abroad since 1958. State Employees Credit Union is ready to help you and your family with all your financial goals. And now, Issues and Answers with Diane Kinderwater.
Raising a rising star, that's what all of us parents would like to do. We think of our children as a rising star, perhaps a star on stage, in theater, on the basketball court, in debate or chess club, even French club or Spanish club. We'd love to all raise a rising star. Well, there is an organization right here in Santa Fe called Rising Stars in the Southwest. They use executive leadership strategies, something that you would learn with a corporate vice president, and they're teaching these kids how really to become stars on the stage of their own life. As we return from this commercial break, we're going to discuss rising stars in the Southwest and what they're instilling in our youth in Santa Fe. We'll be back right after this.
I love the credit union because I feel like I belong here.
You walk out with a smile on your face.
They're very nice and friendly.
Convenient locations.
They're very professional in what they do.
I love the State Employees Credit Union iPhone app.
The credit union has always helped us. It's always excellent service.
Easy banking.
It is there for the members.
They've made it a very good experience.
And when you need them, they're there for you.
I'm a member, not a number.
I'm a member, not a number.
I'm a member, not a number.
Rising Stars in the Southwest. Do you have one in your household? Do you have one in your school? Well, there is an organization, Rising Stars in the Southwest, that will instill the knowledge of how to become a star again in our own lives. I have the executive director and probably founder, Roy B. Martinez, as a guest on the program today. Roy, thank you so much for all you're doing in the community.
And thank you for having us. We're very excited to be here.
And Jesus Vasquez, a graduate from Capital High School, and Jarek Martinez, also a recent Capital High School graduate and a graduate of this program. Welcome to Issues and Answers.
Thank you.
You're excited. You're going to be going to school at Johnson & Wells in Rhode Island,
yes.
Jesus, and you're studying business.
Yes.
Did you learn something from this program about goal setting and perhaps getting that business mentality?
Yes, actually Roy really taught me how to set up goals and follow up with them, because if you don't have a plan, you cannot get there.
Very good. Jarek, you're going to UNM studying business management as well. Congratulations on your success. And to the kids out there who haven't been in this program, how has it affected your life?
It's taught me who I am and what kind of person I am. It taught me what career field I'm going to be best at and what I'm going to be most successful at. And it ultimately determined my career.
Fantastic. I mean, for young men just out of high school going into college, you have your career path. And Roy, that's what you told me a little bit about. You formed this organization 2.5 years ago. Yes. You used to work with corporate VPs across the country, perhaps even across the world. Across the globe. You wanted to stay here in Santa Fe. We don't have many huge corporations here. So you decided to instill your knowledge in the youth of Santa Fe.
Yes, and that comes from listening to a lot of businesses. The one thing that everybody shares a concern for is education in New Mexico. And for me, I want to see some of our students compete globally, not nationally, globally.
And that's why you're using your experience and teaching them that. That's what I said when I talked to you about this program. I said, what's different? We have a lot of leadership programs throughout New Mexico. What makes this different than other programs? And again, you started 2.5 years ago because?
Yes. Because there is a real need, and with talent, raw talent, and with the processes they learn, they build confidence, first thing, and they learn more about themselves through some of the assessments that we do.
And that's what I thought was so interesting. You said you use executive leadership strategy on teens.
Yes.
You used to use these with adults. Well into their careers.
Yes. And I think when I originally started working with people 40 years ago, I learned that you don't teach, you help facilitate learning, and that's the difference. In this process, you facilitate learning. You don't talk at the audience. You get them to participate. And that becomes the critical change. Because as young leaders, they have spoken over and over again about their thoughts. and what they own. And that becomes the big decision making.
What I learned through your website, we looked at an equation. Interpersonal skills plus goal-setting behavior and knowledge equals the ability to assess how our behaviors now will impact our future.
Right.
I thought that was very interesting, meaning through your organization, you're teaching them really how you're going to predict what you're going to be if you have the knowledge, interpersonal skills, and a behavior to set goals. Then you're going to determine, it's going to be all laid out in a roadmap for you.
I think the biggest thing that the students learn is what their real strengths are, their real passion. So many of our generation went off and we did the first thing, and it really wasn't the good fit. And I think these two students, as well as others, are better prepared to enter education and then go from education to career without that space and time.
Why do you think they're able to do this with this plan, this strategy?
The process, because they actually do follow a strategic process. They start out with a dream. They start building out pillars just like a business would. And some of the pillars they have a difficult time with. Like, I'll ask them, how are you going to pay for college? How are you going to pay for your dorm room? That has to be in a plan. Would you agree? And then one of the things that I think is often overlooked is the pillar of family life or balance of life. I was not a good example of it. I traveled enormously. So I left my family for long, long periods of time. But I'm not there to tell them what that balance is, but they have to be aware of it.
What's interesting, I didn't realize, not going through any executive leadership strategy, you start with a dream, you start with the end point and how you're going to get there. Right. And did you see, and we'll ask these kids, these teens, these young adults here, did their dreams change? Have you found that in your 2.5 years working with the kids? Did their dream, as they went through in this whole process, to say, yeah, that sounded good, but it really isn't perhaps my dream?
I don't think their dream changes, but it becomes more focused in a very specific area. So I want to go into business. Well, what kind of business do you want to go? Do you want to go corporate business? You want to do small business entrepreneurial? And I think both these gentlemen would share that was probably the biggest dilemma for them, because then they had to really start asking themselves, what area will I really exceed?
Jarek, tell us about the process. You were nodding your head when Roy was talking about this. You're saying, yeah. Did you start with a dream? Did you know you were going to start with business before?
Well, I knew I was going to start with business, but it wasn't like he says, like with the program, I narrowed it down to like being somewhere in business management. So I've taken like one step there, but not all the way. So I'd have said it narrows like it gives you like a more focused path on basically what you want to do.
And why do you think it worked for you? Because you actually went through a process?
Yeah, you basically like map out like your road to success, basically.
And had you ever done that before? Or some of your fellow classmates who weren't in Rising Stars in the Southwest, did you share what you're doing? Or were they kind of lost compared to what you were doing?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
The process of the whole pillars and, yeah, the process of the pillars would probably have to be the most helpful. And, because that's a lot of, like what a lot of people were considering of our class. All of them wanted to stay like in-state and just go to the community college. Nothing wrong with that at all. Mm-hmm. But like I told them, like, look outside, go like out of state. Don't worry, like your family will be there to help you.
Of course, we're pretty fortunate here in New Mexico to have our lottery scholarship program. It's pretty hard for parents to think of sending the kids out of state when we got their tuition paid here. Yeah. So you can appreciate that from the parent standpoint as well, right? How about you, Jesus? Compared to fellow classmates who weren't in Rising Stars in the Southwest, were they thinking so much about their career? Were they thinking down the road as much as you were because you were in this program?
Well, when I was in Rising Stars, most of us were like on the same grade level. So all of us graduated just in May. So most of us were really concerned about our future. So we really took into consideration our future.
Great.
And I think that we were all equally prepared and had the same level of motivation.
If somebody at Capitol High School is a sophomore right now, their parents are watching the program, they might not be. How would you describe the program to the parents so they could tell their kids, maybe check this out? What would you say this program's about?
Well, I would talk with the parents. They might probably know that their children are still small. They're not juniors or seniors yet. So they might be tending to look out to digital design field or the business or medical. They're not really sure about it, but this program, Rising Stars, really help them set goals and get them know what they like and how they're gonna do it.
And merely what makes them just think about it? Is that the difference? I mean, they're in the classroom, they're in high school, they're learning about, going on to college. They have counselors and they're studying their SAT and ACT tests. So they're, as Jesus said, they're thinking about their future, Roy, but...
They're thinking with their future, but not with specifics. So as we take some of the tests, they learn what their real strengths are. If they're very technically inclined, or if they're very animated and like to convince people. There's different personalities. And then we talk about how do you talk to different personalities? How do you communicate? And I think that prepares them. Through all this process, little by little, they're getting the confidence and they're learning a little bit more about themselves, so they are more focused on where they want to go. That's not to say that that's going to be the end game, but at least they're going with purpose. Imagine if we had more of our students going to college with purpose. And I hear that from St. Mike's and from the Santa Fe Prep, that they would like to see their students go with more purpose. And I think going back to why I started this, I want our students to be able to compete globally. I worked across the globe and I saw the Asian population, how just driven they are to be a success in a career. A success not in school, a success in a career. So I think these two young men can compete globally as well as the others. And they know that it's not going to be easy. The other thing that they're not mentioning is that there's work involved. There's school, plus they're working with Rising Stars, plus I ask them to go to chamber meetings to speak to the business people. So they have learned to also manage their time. It's one of our modules that they have to learn to manage their time with what they want to do.
So how often did you meet with the Rising Stars program?
Once a week.
Once a week?
And it happened on Wednesday.
Describe the process a little bit for me.
Like how the session went?
Mm-hmm. After school?
Yeah, it
morning?
went. It was always on a Wednesday after school. After our 7th period ended, we'd meet, and then from there we'd all meet in the career center, and then from there we started talking about whatever subject we were on, whether it was personalities or traits or strengths.
So Roy, so I learned you start with a dream, but now you're telling me you're doing the testing. So tell me the process with Rising Star. Is it a 1-year program with?
It's a semester. There's actually 14 modules, and within the 14 modules, I've embedded things that I've taken from learning and development across my 40 years working with business professionals. So one of our modules, they'll read, and then I would give them additional reading that they have to catch up on. We'll talk about verbal erasers and the use of them and how to avoid them. And they learn that it's very, very hard not to use the word but. I like your idea, but. So things like that really call more on their cognitive skills to say, I can't say but, I could use and. Mm-hmm. So we do work with that. And in the weekly sessions, especially with the first group, I didn't have a good sense of time sometimes in getting from where I lived to Capital. We were at Guadalupe Credit Union at that time. So I was late, but all 3 of them were, at the time in that session, had their heads buried in the books and going back over. Because one of the things I ask them to do is present what they've learned. Not stand up and speak, but they've got to be able to present and communicate to that team over and over again. Because one of the weakest skills in professionals is communications. Presentation skills.
How many students are in the program, and is it just at Capitol High?
It's currently at Capitol High, and we're ready to open it up in Santa Fe High. We've done some sessions there, and it looks like we would have 7 or 8. I don't do a lot because each time we meet, each person has to give their view on it. Mm-hmm. And we do one thing, we do take some of the workforce skills to the whole group. I work with the Business Academy, the teacher's Ray Henderson. And so in April, we offered interviewing skills. And we had 40 professionals from Santa Fe businesses interview the students with their resumes. Those are the skills they need, and it's not taught in college. There's no college curriculum that I've seen that says we're going to teach you how to look and get a job, land a job.
So you start, well, the interviewing skills we've heard of, but again, those executive skills, the dream setting, the testing of personalities.
Right.
That you're doing. That's, again, corporate America uses this, and now Santa Fe kids are being able to be introduced to this.
Exactly. And the numbers are small, but the idea is that these young men and others will start being the role model for others. The biggest success story we had was at their DECA Club, which is a business academy. They actually didn't have anybody go to the national.
We saw some students right there. Who were they? Is that?
That's Jesus and Rita, and they're the presidents graduating from DECA. They're a group. The two of them are part of 25, along with Derek, that went to Atlanta, Georgia, to compete nationally. That hadn't been done in a long, long time. They led it, and now because of the work of these seniors, more students are getting interested into business in this business academy. And it isn't easy. I've been with these gentlemen at 7:30 in the morning at Capitol High. That young lady, by the way,
she was with Governor Susana Martinez.
Yeah, we helped her get a scholarship through the Hispano. That's Alex Romero, the president of Hispano. That's another thing Rising Stars does, is we seek out scholarships for the students, and we communicate to these scholarships because there's a lot of opportunities, and the governor shares it all the time. They're not known enough. And one of the things she shares all the time is there should be no reason for a student not to go to college. And that young lady came from Capitol High.
We saw somebody speaking. Who is that?
That is retired Chief Justice Patricio Serna, and he is at our fundraising event in September. He was our honorary chair. These young men were here. We have music, we have a silent auction, and through the generosity of many, many artists, we have small original art. So if you go there and you want to acquire a piece of art, it's not super expensive.
And the fundraising?
That is Dr. Boyd, our superintendent, and he's looking at original arts. And Dr. Boyd has been an active participant and supporter. So he, every year, walks away with a painting.
And you have a fundraiser again this September.
Yes, we do. We will have it in probably, we're going back and forth on the dates so that we can have our honorary chairs, people who help the Rising Stars with education, be there. So.
How many graduates would you say you'd had through this program the past 2.5 years, and what are they doing, and what kind of feedback do you receive from them?
About 14, maybe 16, because even though it sounds like we've been going that long with the 501c3, it took us time to put this agenda together. And every one of them seems to be doing quite well. The young lady that was with the governor, we helped her get a marketing internship at a local credit union right here in her neighborhood. And she's going on to UNM.
Do you think, Jarek, that you're going to be able to compete globally? I mean, as Roy has seen across the nation, Asians study harder in school. They are always on the top of everything. But I didn't realize it was not just the studying that they were so critical. It was actually their careers, that they were driven towards that. How do you feel?
I feel through Rising Stars I've acquired like those types of skills to be able to compete globally, because it's helped me through my DECA club in Capitol High. We competed state and nationally, and from there I took 3rd place in state, and I would more than likely say that's all thanks to Rising Stars.
How does it make you feel differently? You confident?
No, a lot more.
Why is that? Why do you think? Because you know where you're going? How would you describe to people at home why you feel so confident now?
I guess through Rising Stars, because it's not only like attitude, it's not like your attitude and stuff like that, but it also teaches you presentation skills.
How about you, Jesus?
Well, I think that I feel much stronger and confident about myself as I graduated from the program. As Jarek just mentioned, we went to compete at international level, and we just got our results back. And from my team, we beat 90% of the whole competitors that went to the competition. It was from the whole U.S., from the territory from Spain, Canada, China, Spain, and we were on the top 10%. So it was a major accomplishment for me and my team, and also for Rising Stars that also helped me prepare for this accomplishment.
Wow, that's fantastic. What are we seeing here?
That is another missing element for success. It's called Dress for Success. That gentleman has actually come to one of the sessions, I think probably Jesus, and talked about entrepreneurs. And he started 2 or 3 companies, but one of the things he's very passionate about is that people dress for success. And what he's delivering in that picture is showing a model, and I believe Jesus was one of the models, but we had 3 or 4 from that exemplify what a role model should be for a job interview or an internship interview.
Do you think you dressed a little differently, Jesus, since Rising Stars, or did you always look that dapper?
Well, I just more dressier than this.
Yeah? How about you, Dick?
Yeah,
Jared?
way more dressier.
Really?
Because before I just wear like shirt and tie and thought that was enough, but I like dressing like this a lot more.
Why?
Because you feel more confident, like when you're presenting yourself, or like even like when I'm talking from me to you.
It's true. You look great. You look successful. You look successful.
Well, let me share what confidence can do. We didn't know what the presentation would be with Jesus's group. It's Rita, Jesus, and Ashley. He chose his mother's business and revamped the marketing in it. And I'm sure she's probably using all of what he developed as a marketing strategy, a local Santa Fe business that will grow. And I think through his confidence and his ability to work with others and the presentation skills, I actually saw the presentation. It's outstanding.
We have another photo that we're seeing. What is this?
This is an evening where Jarek and some of his fellow students came, and what they're doing is they're asking for used business clothes, and we do this almost all year. Rising Stars, we help collect business clothes for the students who otherwise could not afford the suits, because think about the investment in a suit for a student who's struggling economically. So we collected the suits, but we had spokespeople from the DECA Club, the Business Academy. We had 3 young ladies asking the business professionals. We had Dr. Boyd speak about the different academies, and Rebecca Wurzberger, our councilman at the time, was in the picture. So the idea is to get these students with support from community, from the politicians, from our senior school administrators.
We have business programs like DECA in the schools already. How does this complement that, would you say? Because you're learning a lot of things in DECA, correct,
Yeah.
Jesus?
Well, actually, Capitol High School has 4 pathways: the business pathway, medical, production, and digital design. And the business pathway is a very unique program because it teaches you what you're gonna have to deal when you go to college if you choose to study business. So by being in this academy and studying about the subject, you really get to know what you're dealing with.
Very good. Jesus Vasquez, we wish you the best as you have just graduated from Capitol High School. You're going on to Johnson & Wells in Rhode Island. Any last points you'd like to share out there about what this has meant and what this could mean to other kids and why this is so different? There's one real main impact it had.
Well, I would recommend anyone to join Rising Stars because it gives you a sense of what you're going to do after college. I mean, after high school. So it really gives you that motivation and to success, and it helps you set your goals.
Goals that you kind of thought about before, but this really forced you to think about.
Yes.
At an early stage, early on. How about you, Jarek? Jarek Martinez, who's going to UNM and studying business. There's a couple things you'd like to share why this is so different for you. Other than looking sharp, you look pretty sharp there.
I'd have to say the most important thing I've ever taken from Rising Stars was it draws a specific map, like for your road to success. Between this and DECA, it just helped me like really determine like what I'm gonna do, how I'm gonna do it, and when I'm gonna do it. And from there, that's how I chose to attend the University of New Mexico and study business management.
And you had an opportunity to speak to various groups, did you go to the city council? What types of competitions have you been in, speaking engagements?
The most recent one would be the interviews, and before that we had the Hispano Chamber where I talked in front of that.
How did you feel when you did that?
Nervous.
And how many people were there?
I'd say probably 200, probably like 200.
Wow. And what did you tell them?
I just talked about the program, more or less how I'm talking to you.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much, and best of luck with everything that you've learned. And again, we just have a minute or two, Roy. If people want to get involved, how do they do that?
They can call our office and we will get back to them. And the number is 505-216-6049.
And the school year is going to start soon. Soon.
We were considering a summer session, which would run 7 days and 3 hours a session, so it's like 21 hours. But it's going to be kept very small if we do run the summer, and then we'll start up in the semester, probably at both high schools.
At Santa Fe and at
Capitol High.
Capitol High School.
And we have the support of a lot of banks and credit unions. So last summer we used New Mexico Bank and Trust, we used Los Alamos National Bank. But, and I said New Mexico Bank and Trust because they're another site for our summer sessions. So we get the support from the community.
Which you said it's everybody's job to instill these goals. Right. Very good. So last point you'd like to make other than joining this group is think. Take time to think and use this executive leadership strategy. And for parents, I would share that it does not have to be the brightest student in the world. We know the brightest don't always make it. It's how much you care, how much passion you put in it, and how hard you work. Both these gentlemen have worked very hard, and they both are recipients of a number of scholarships. And that's why they're rising stars in the Southwest. Thank you so much, Jesus, Jared, and Roy. Thanks for being a part of this program today. I'm Diane Kinderwater. Make it a great week with your family. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
I love the credit union because I feel like I belong here.
You walk out with a smile on your face.
They're very nice and friendly.
Convenient locations.
They're very professional in what they do.
I love the State Employees Credit Union iPhone app.
The credit union has always helped us. It's always excellent service.
Easy banking.
It is there for the members.
They've made it a very good experience.
And when you need them, they're there for you.
I'm a member, not a number.
I'm a member, not a number.
I'm a member, not a number.
Issues and Answers with Diane Kinderwater is presented as a public service to New Mexicans by State Employees Credit Union, who have been proudly serving the families in New Mexico locally and abroad since 1958. State Employees Credit Union is ready to help you and your family with all your financial goals and is the exclusive sponsor of Issues and Answers with Diane Kinderwater in order to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program or to purchase a DVD copy of any Issues and Answers program, visit sunbroadcasting.cc or call us at 505-345-1991.